How do you maximize your Kindle book royalties on Amazon? And what other pricing strategies should you bear in mind when you're setting the price for your book? That's what we're going to cover in today's video. My name is John Ty. I'm the author of Crush It with Kindle. And what I want to start with is a quick overview of the different kinds of strategies that you might be pursuing. And it's going to depend partly on if you're just on Kindle on Amazon for book royalties or if you have a back-end business. Very different considerations. So let's start with the different things to be aware of. First of all, royalties. That's the obvious one. The pricing is going to change depending on whether you have one book and it's standalone or whether you have a series of books. And if you've got a series of books, it's going to depend very much on where that particular book is in the series. So that's royalties. We'll go back to that one in a second. Another consideration would be new readers and book sales. So if you're trying to maximize book sales as part of a launch, your pricing strategy is going to be different. Equally, if you're trying to bring in lots of new readers, let's say it's the first book in the series, it's going to be different. If you've got a back-end business, maybe you're trying to bring in new clients. Okay, so that's going to dictate a particular pricing strategy. But depending on what sort of clients you want to bring in, that's going to change the strategy as well. Also, leads. If you're trying to build up an email list, and this could be for royalties as well, not just back-end business. So if you're trying to if you're focusing primarily on royalties, you don't have a back-end business, you still want to be building an email list. So that's another consideration. And then finally, positioning and branding. Again, if you've got a back-end business, positioning yourself within your marketplace, that dictates certain pricing strategies depending again on the type of market. And also branding, not quite the same thing. Branding might be tied in with positioning, but it also could be getting your book in front of lots of people. So there's lots of different things to consider here. I'm going to focus on royalties in this one because otherwise I think the video will get too long. So let's loop back to royalties and we can cover the other stuff in some separate videos. So first thing, just to overview, you probably know this, but just in case, Amazon has a very clear pricing strategy in terms of Kindle books. The royalty is 70% if your book is priced between $2.99 and $9.99. Either side of that price bracket, it is 35% royalties. So it drops in half. 35% is still very good compared to traditional publishing where, you might be getting, as a first-time author, you might be getting as low as 8-9%, something like that. So it's still good, but 70% obviously is a lot better. The good news there is that the sweet spot as a self-published author, the sweet spot for your book is almost certainly going to be in that $2.99 to $9.99 bracket. One of the big factors that will sort of determine where that is how much of a following you already have. Also, I touched earlier on whether a book is a standalone book or if it's part of a series. So if you've got a big following, you can sustain a higher price point, typically. If your book is part of a series, you get what we call read-through. So maybe it's the second, third, fourth book in the series, and people have read the first one, they want to go on. Again, you're likely to be able to sustain a higher price point. Typically, if you don't have a following or a lot of read-through, or it's a standalone book, your price point for maximizing your royalties on Kindle is probably going to be $2.99, but certainly between $2.99 and $4.99. Probably not going to be outside of that, but always worth testing to be sure. So that's probably going to be the sweet spot because Kindle books are quite price elastic. In other words, as the price goes up, the demand tends to drop more than enough to offset the rise in prices. A quick pointer here, once you drop below $2.99, you immediately fall into that 35% royalty bracket. So your royalties are cut in half. Now, I've tested this. Other people have done this as well. Typically, what I've found is that if you drop your book from, say, $2.99 down to 99 cents, which is the lowest Amazon will allow, you get a big increase in sales, but it roughly doubles. It doesn't really go much above that. So you get twice as many sales, but you're getting 1/6 of the royalties because you're only getting 35 cents as opposed to around $2. So the net result is that you end up with about 1/3 of the royalties. So if royalties is your objective, there's no upside to to going down to 99 cents, unless it's part of one of those other strategies, such as trying to sell more books, bring in more readers. Maybe it's the first book in the series and you want to get people hooked and then get them to read the subsequent books at higher prices. And we'll talk about all of that sort of stuff in a separate video. So that's, yeah, so immediately that puts you in that, you know, $2.99 and above, gets you into that 70% royalty bracket. What else do we need to say on this? Something else you might do, even if your book is normally priced at say $2, $3, sort of $3, $4, $5, is you might periodically, if it's dropping down the bestseller list, dropping down the rankings, you might drop it down to say 99 cents and do a push just to get it selling a few more copies, make it more visible, and boost it that way, and then flip the price back to the long-term price. And of course, another thing you can do is tie in advertising. So again, if you're doing Amazon ads, you might not need to do that price drop. The ads might be more than enough to keep your book sales consistent enough to keep it visible, because multiple ways of getting people to discover your book. You can market it directly, which is to drive traffic to that page, maybe through social media or through paid advertising, things like that. But also you want the organic side as well. So the Amazon algorithmic engine, basically, the also bought recommendations, your book showing up underneath as a suggested purchase. Also, if you've got consistent sales and your book is ranking in the bestseller list for that particular category, you get the visibility because the top 100 books will show up in the bestseller list. If somebody scrolled through that list, obviously they're not all they do need to kind of scroll through and go to the second page if they want to see all of those 100 books. But getting your book up into those lists is great. So as a rule of thumb, yeah, start with $2.99 as the price point to maximize your royalties. But it's certainly worth testing higher price points. Not the easiest thing to do, because you need consistent sales, and if your sales are fluctuating, it's hard to get to be absolutely certain about the result. But if you've got some consistent sales and you're priced at say $2.99, well, change the price to $3.99 and run it at that price for a week or so. See what happens to the sales. If there's a very significant drop off, you can calculate what sort of royalties you'll be earning. If the sales stay consistent, then obviously you're going to be making more money. And let me just show you. Let me do a screen share, because there's something that I want to illustrate. So let me go here. So this is, let me bring this up. Sorry, I've got too many tabs here. Yeah, okay. So what we've got here is a typical example of that price elasticity. And what I've done is I've worked out, I've drawn up a table where you've got various different pricing points on the left. The 70% royalty pricing is in the sort of shaded in the light blue there, from $2.99 to $9.99. And this is not in any way set in stone. This is just an illustrative example. So you would have to test at different prices to see what kind of sales you got. But this kind of illustrates the price elasticity, and I'll show it in a graph form in a moment, which is going to be helpful as well. But what you can see is obviously the royalties go up here, the second column, as the price goes up, but the sales drop off significantly. So going from $2.99, let's say you got 20 book sales at $2.99, that gives you $41.80 in royalties. You get a significant drop off. So although you're making an extra 70 cents per book, your overall royalties in this example, say it's just illustrative, but they would drop to say $33.48. And you can see how it makes a big difference because of that price elasticity. Now, as I said at the beginning, if you've got a big following, or if you've got other books in the series and you get a lot of read through, so people wanting to find out what happens next, basically, you're going to be able to sustain a higher price point. So this sort of is illustrative for a standalone book. So bear that in mind. And here it is it's exactly the same numbers, but in graph form. So you can actually, like a bar chart, so you can see it there. And it's very, very obvious if you put it in that context, that in this case, $2.99 is going to be the sweet spot, as I say. This is for a standalone book. Bear in mind, it's going to be different if you have a big following. If you've got an email list where you can send out emails to people and get fans coming in and buying your book, you're going to probably have a higher price point. At the end of the day, it's a good sort of best practice. Let's go back to me. Yeah, it's sort of best practice to track all of this and just get a sense of what's happening with your book sales at different price points, or if you're mailing out to your list, or if you're doing promotional stuff. As your book portfolio grows, as I say, you'll be able to sustain higher price points as you build up that fan base, build up your readership, and so on. So hopefully that helps. I will cover some of the other things I talked about in terms of back-end pricing strategies. I'll cover also serialization. So if you've got a series of books, how do you adjust the pricing on that to maximize your readership? Another strategy, which I haven't even mentioned here, I'll talk about in another video, is the Permafree strategy, where you actually give the first book in a series away. It might be the first book, it might be a short novella or something like that, or it might be some kind of guide. If you're in the nonfiction space, you give something away to build the readership, and then the subsequent books in the series, obviously, people pay for. So that's everything for today. I'm John Tighe, author of Crush It with Kindle. If you like this sort of stuff, if you want more, you can grab a book bundle I put together, super inexpensive. The link is on the screen there, johnbookbundle.com. It's, as I say, very inexpensive. If you get 3 books, you get 3 pieces of bonus content, all of which will help you with this sort of stuff. If you like it, great. If you change your mind, let me know. I will give you a full refund, and you can keep the books and the bonuses anyway. So there we go, johnbookbundle.com. And don't forget to like the page or subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube. And also let me know in the comments if there's anything in particular that you have, either questions about this or things you would like me to cover in other videos. And I will talk to you next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.